Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, everybody. Megan and I are going on a road trip tomorrow.
Yeah.
To Cape Breton.
Woohoo! This will be a week in the future from now, so we'll have already been to CaperCon.
Yeah.
At this point.
Next week, you'll have to hear the recap of what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was fabulous, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
And we stayed in a fancy hotel.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about the fancy hotel.
I am,
and
too.
that there's like a rooftop area that we can go to.
Yeah, and we'll see it's on the water. So the real question is our room on the water side,
Ooh,
or is it on the ugly street side?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm curious.
But it said it was a deluxe room, so that makes me
True.
think it's on the nice side.
That would be nice. I didn't even think to ask when I called them today.
Yeah.
They're like, we're just going to stick you in the same room. And I was like, okay, but so you don't want my card number? No. They're like, no, you can just swipe it when you get here. Very, very Cape Breton people. I was like,
I can't believe they just let you add on to a reservation that you did not make in the first place.
I was thinking
It's the most Cape Breton thing I've ever heard.
Literally, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, all right. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. It was so funny. It was very random. I was not expecting that at all. I had my card in my hand ready to give her the number and everything, but nope, they didn't require that.
You just wait, Megan. This is going to be your first real Cape Breton experience.
I'm really excited.
In there.
Yeah.
You're going to have a great time. I was looking at some restaurant websites because I was very mindful of the fact that you have celiac. And I was like, what's around us? So I was
nice.
like,
you're more mindful than I am.
Yeah, I was like celiac safe restaurants in Sydney.
Yeah.
And then I was on two websites, and one of them, it was like right when you go to the menu page, it said something at the top about in huge font, made with the freshest, and I'm fairly certain it meant to say ingredients.
Oh.
But it was, instead of at the end where it's like DIENTS, it was DANCE. So it was ingredients.
Oh.
I showed it to my husband. I was like, can you read this sentence for me? And I just flipped my phone to him. And he goes, made with the freshest ingredients. And he's like, they got it.
Ingredients.
Sounded out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then I went to one that's kind of like a fancy one. Like, I'd say it's one of the nicest restaurants probably in Sydney.
Okay.
And I was reading the different sections because it was like appetizers, whatever. And then there was a section called Sandwishes.
Oh.
And I was like, was this a mistype?
No.
Was this on purpose? I don't know.
There's a little cafe restaurant style whatever in where I work that is called Sandwich.
And I could see that if that was your
Sandwich.
shtick. But this was like a fancy restaurant with like a huge menu. And it was on their website where it was mistyped. And I was like, ooh.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's hard to say because, you gotta love Cape Breton, right?
You're going to have the best time.
My coworker that I was supposed to go see tomorrow he actually reached out to the cafe across the street from the office that we have in Sydney and asked them if they had celiac safe things on the menu, and they do. And I was like, that is so sweet. Thank you so much for thinking about me and my
that is super nice.
Food intolerances that I have, allergies or whatever you want to call them.
I know the struggle, so
yeah, exactly.
I pre-prepared.
Oh, I'm very excited about that. I see. I'm a bad celiac because I am new at it and I don't think ahead very often.
Oh,
so I don't think about what I need to ask about the type of food that they have and if it's gluten-free or if it's gluten-friendly. A lot of places call it gluten-friendly because it's,
not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed, right. There's a liability issue there and it would be at my own risk to eat it, which I do anyway. I've been burned a few times.
Yeah. I'm 4 years into my weird food journey, so I will not go to a restaurant. I will not step foot in that restaurant unless I get to look at a menu online beforehand.
Wow.
Because I've been at the very first, I went to a couple restaurants and they were like, we can't feed you. You want fries? And I'm like, I don't want to pay $12 for a plate of fries at this restaurant. That happened to me
one time. And it was a restaurant that was on the list of restaurants that, because there's like a gluten-free Nova Scotia page that you can go to. And there's like different restaurants that they've listed that you can go to. And it was one of the ones on that list. And I went there and they could feed me nothing. And I was like, what? Why are you on this list? And two, don't be such an ass about it. Like, I'm sorry I have an allergy to gluten. What do you want me to do? It's so frustrating. Anyway, I'm really excited about our trip tomorrow.
We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great drive, 4.5 hours-ish.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to catch up on because I feel like we haven't really, caught up on a lot since our trip to the zoo. I think.
No, we were together on Friday for your birthday.
Oh, my birthday.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, but it wasn't just you and I. It was like you and I and everybody else.
That's true.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we have lots to talk about. And we'll have lots to talk about next week when we record. I'm sure we'll have lots to update everybody on how the weekend went.
Yeah, I hope so. Oh, we can discuss this on the drive there tomorrow. But I noticed that one of the guests at CaperCon, one of the other guests, is a podcast.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that I believe is quite famous, like significantly famous compared to us.
Hey, maybe we can collab. That'd be great.
That's right.
We need to network. I know.
Yeah.
We need to network more.
Yeah, be like, don't listen to us, though, because then you might say no. So maybe agree first.
Right.
Is what we'll ask him.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And he's a one-person show.
Really?
Yes.
One person. I can't imagine doing this alone. I couldn't do this without you, Nikki.
No, I'm going to be real with you. I planned on listening to his podcast before we went, and I forgot. So we're going to have to do that on the way to Cape.
Oh, we can totally do that on the way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You'll have to let me know what the podcast name is and all that.
I don't remember. I'll have to look it up.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's hope if he does want to collab, he does not choose this episode to be the first one he listens to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, this will be the first one that comes out after we've been there.
Oh, great.
Although, if you look us up, it'll be last week's episode, which I can't remember how bad that one was or how good it was. I mean, that's what I meant to say.
It was the snapped episode.
No, I know, but I just can't remember how, on we were, if we were.
We're always on.
I mean,
as we spent 10 minutes clearing phlegm in our throats before we started recording this session because we're both having phlegm issues today.
Yeah, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. I was just saying to Nikki before we got on that I had to drop my cat off at the boarding place today, and it was a bit of a moment. And after I dropped her off, I was starting to get really acid refluxy, which brings up a lot of phlegm, and then I had to drink milk and have anti-acid pills and all that stuff on top of it, and it was just not working for me. So yeah, we're working through it, but bear with us.
Yeah, I don't have a good excuse. I just ate a bunch of food right before we recorded, and it made me phlegmy. And I also didn't sleep last night.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. So Nikki might be a little loopy later on. We'll see.
Frig. I told Megan I feel like I'm a little bit drunk. My head's a little like, woo.
Or you might just fall asleep during the story. Who knows?
I mean, that's why we're getting to it right when we record early bedtime before road trip.
Yeah, exactly. If you want me up and at 'em tomorrow morning bright and early, we're going to be leaving early in the morning. So I got to be awake to drive.
I hope.
I will be awake. Don't worry. It'll be fun. I love driving, so it'll be good. Okay, so I guess we can dive into the story. If you remember from last week, I rolled for the...
I don't.
Okay, well, I'm reminding. Some people have too much free time. All right, so we're going to chat about somebody who was really bored, and his name was Niels Högel. Högel with an H. Högel. But he's from
he's from Whoville?
He's from Germany, so his name is actually probably sounding much cooler than what I just said it as with my horrible Canadian English accent. Niels Högel. So he was born on December 30th in 1976.
That's my husband's birthday, not the year, but
I was like, he was not born in 76.
I'm
like, I'm pretty sure my brother was born in 76. Yeah.
No, I'm older than him.
Yeah. Oh, robbing the cradle.
By a year.
Yeah. Yes, December 30th. That's right. So 1976 in a coastal town of Wilhelmshaven. Wilhelms. Oh my God, I'm not going to say this
Deep?
right. I'm sorry. Yes, Helm's Deep, Germany.
Oh. Was there a battle?
Well, there's, the internal battles that everybody faces, Nikki.
Oh.
No, this is called Wilhelmshaven, Germany. I know I butchered that, and I'm very, very sorry to all of our German friends. Friends from Germany. Yes, anyway.
Megan's into it today.
I am having a moment. It's, you know what? I say goodbye to my cat for 4 days. I'm very sad. Oh, we're going to have fun, though. Okay. Anyway, so he grew up in a very Catholic family. His father was a nurse. His mother was a paralegal. And his older sister grew up to be a dental assistant. Niels was described as being a very warm and stable person. When he was about 11 years old, his parents split up. And during that divorce period, he started developing a lot of fears and insecurities about himself. When he was in school, his grades started declining. He started having trouble with school. And so to counter that, along with all the insecurities that he had, he started becoming like the class clown, looking for attention. And then eventually he just dropped out of school. So he was about 16 years old when he dropped out. And that was about the time when he jumped over to training at the main hospital where, like, in the town he grew up in. And he ended up becoming a nurse. Apparently you do not need high school education there, and you do not need, it's only like, I looked it up and it was only like, I don't know, a couple of months or a few months worth of school that you have to do, and then you can just become a nurse. I don't know. There's probably a lot more to it than that. But when I was looking it up, like, it didn't sound like, and maybe this was back then, I'm not sure. Like, this would have been the 80s, right? When he was 11. So.
Yeah. Well, there could be also different, like how here we have LNs and RNs.
True.
And so if you want to be an RN, you need a lot more schooling, I believe, than an LN.
That's true. Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly which one he was, as it didn't say, but they were very clear that he was a nurse and worked at the hospital. So. His father and his grandmother both also were nurses, so he kind of just followed in their footsteps. So I'm not sure what Germany has, but most places, nurses and doctors, they have a pledge that they take before they go out into the workforce. I couldn't find exactly what they did in Germany, but a popular one that they do in North America is the Florence Nightingale Pledge. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
It was composed in 1893 by Lystra E. Gretter and a committee for the Ferrand Training School for Nurses in Detroit. It was called the Florence Nightingale Pledge as a token of esteem for the founder of modern nursing. So I wrote out this pledge because I just want to kind of give you all an idea of what it says and what kind of pledge that nurses are taking to start practicing with regards to health and medicine. It says, I solemnly pledge myself before God and in the presence of this assembly to pass my life in purity and to practice my profession faithfully. I will abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous and will not take or knowingly administer any harmful drug. I will do all in my power to maintain and elevate the standard of my profession and will hold in confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping and all family affairs coming to my knowledge in the practice of my calling. With loyalty will I endeavor to aid the physician in his work and devote myself to the welfare of those committed to my care. So I don't know this for a fact because I couldn't find anything like that. And every time I looked up German nursing, it was always in German. And there was never anything that was very like clear cut. This is a pledge that German nurses take. But I would assume that it's similar, that they do something like that over there.
Yeah.
So in any case, he became a nurse, but he failed to really make any kind of strong impression in school. Colleagues and superiors remember him as being nice over the few years that he spent at the clinic. He was described as being super friendly, helpful, fun by former teachers and classmates. He was a caregiver / nurse at a hospital in Oldenburg, Germany, between the years of 1999 and 2002. And then he worked at another hospital in Delmenhorst, also Germany, from 2003 to 2005. When he started working at the Delmenhorst Hospital, he brought a letter of recommendation with him from someone who worked with him previously. They described him as someone that worked well independently and conscientiously. They continue by saying that when there was a crisis, he reacted with consideration and was technically correct. Basically, it was a gleaming letter of recommendation.
Nice.
Yeah. So many who worked with him over the years considered him to be a bad luck charm because he had so many patients that seemed to require life-saving measures. But to those who saw him in action, called him, his nickname was literally Resuscitation Rambo because of the amount of patients that he tried to revive and save.
I feel like there should not be coincidences in the medical field, and I feel like people of science, which people in the medical field would be, should realize that and stop looking for coincidences and instead look for correlations.
Yes, it's very interesting indeed how these things only seem to happen around Niels. He eventually got married and had a daughter during his time at this hospital. Unfortunately, this would all come to a crashing halt when some of his colleagues caught him doing something unimaginable.
Stealing medical supplies.
Kind of, but not directly. I mean, yeah, directly, but also not exactly what we're going to get into. But kind of, but not really, but yeah, okay. Good talk. On June 22nd, 2005, when he was 28 years old, Niels was with a patient administering Ajmaline. Ajmaline? I did not look up the pronunciation.
You sure on that one?
I'm so sorry. It's Ajmaline. Do not know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. I did not look that up. This is a drug that's used to induce arrhythmic contractions when testing for a certain heart rhythm disorder. Except this patient was not in need of this drug. Within a day, the patient was dead, and a colleague had witnessed Niels administering this drug. The hospital thought this was strange, but did not alert the authorities right away.
Did the other person question him?
Yeah.
Like, yo, what are you doing?
Literally, yes. And they went to the hospital administration and they didn't do anything until it happened again 2 days later. Another patient died under Niels' care at 7 p.m. on June 24th, 2005.
Did Mr. Högel realize that somebody saw him?
It didn't say. I'm assuming he did. He did it in front of people. Like, he literally...
That's pretty bold. And then to do it again 2 days later.
I think the way that he presented it, though, was he was just giving them routine medication. So he was just putting medication into their IV or whatever the case may be. And the things that would happen later, you'll see that he did it in front of people. So the people were called... Sorry, the people. The police were called... So the police were called and arrested Niels, and he was charged for the deaths of these two patients. The detectives in the case thought that it was best to investigate all of the hospitals that Niels had worked for to see if there were any other cases to be worried about. So in June 2008, Niels was sent sentenced to 7.5 years in prison for attempted murder by a woman who had been following Niels' case very closely since she suspected him of killing her mother. And she came forward to the police and spoke about the concerns she had. At the same time, he was also given a lifelong ban, a lifelong employment ban. Due to these findings and convictions, police expanded their investigations and analyzed patient files and even exhumed more than 130 bodies in Germany, Poland, and Turkey. Since they looked into all previous employments at other hospitals. And that was across 67 cemeteries. And that's when they found evidence of another 88 murders. So,
88?
90 in total.
How did he do that many and he did not get caught?
So this is the ultimate question, and we're going to get through this because we're going to keep going through this story.
We're going to get through
this together, you guys, because this story, it blew my mind, quite frankly, that this happened for so long and nobody said anything. You'll find out that there's a lot of corruption in those hospitals and that they cared about the reputation of those hospitals more so than they cared about what was happening with this man.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So unfortunately, many of the patients that had died in Niels' care had been cremated. So they actually think that total could have been way higher. Chief of Police, Arnold, I think his name was Arne Schmidt. It's Arne, but again, I'm not sure the pronunciation. He said, quote, "The death toll is unique in the history of German Republic. There was evidence for at least 90 murders and at least as many suspected cases again that can no longer be proven," end quote. He said that he was left speechless at the outcome when he found out. He added that Niels had randomly preyed on those in critical condition. So once this all came out in the news, Niels was deemed Germany's worst serial killer post-war. His first murder was carried out in February 2000. He had been working at the Oldenburg Clinic at the time and Lower Saxony. So almost or over 100 murders in only 5 years. Basically what he would do is he would inject them with this drug. He would wait until they go into cardiac arrest and then try to resuscitate them. So he would try to bring them back to life. It was a game for him. This is what he did.
Didn't they notice that a bunch of this drug was missing?
Well, there was nothing about that. I searched everywhere. I even looked up articles that were in German and translated them because there just was not enough information. And I'll tell you what, if this story is a little bit confusing, I apologize because all of these stories are all over the place. There's not enough. I don't know how this didn't make the news more, but it didn't make the news enough for me to piece it together cleanly. And of course, every article has a different number. So some said 84, some said 88, yada, yada, yada. At the end of it, it's a different number again. But
yeah,
it was all over the place. So I am piecing together from the most reliable sources that I could find. And there was nothing out there at all about any of them saying anything about the drugs. So I don't know what kind of investigation was done with regards to the drugs being missing.
That's wild.
I agree.
Although you said this 10 minutes ago, but my brain is clearly working with some lag.
You're catching up.
Speaking of Rambo.
Yes, that's right. Resuscitation Rambo, yeah.
I was going for a walk with my husband yesterday, and I was asking him what he's going to wear for Halloween. And he's stressing about what he's going to wear. And then he keeps coming up. I keep suggesting good cosplays or costumes. And then he keeps suggesting silly stuff. And then he was like, I'll just not wear a shirt and put a bunch of baby oil on. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'll be Rambo.
Yes.
And I was like, why are you putting baby oil on?
You not know.
I've never seen Rambo.
Oh my God.
And he's like, because it's that like 80s action movie thing where they're just oily all the time. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's supposed to look like sweat, like glistening sweat, but it's just baby oil all over their body. Oh yeah. I can picture the front cover of that VHS tape that we used to have for Rambo. And it just has Sylvester Stallone on the front cover with his fancy hair and the little bandana that he had on, and just sweat on his body, on his pecs, whatever you want to call them. Chest. That's funny. I mean, Rambo is a great idea, and I do not think that's silly at all. I love Rambo.
I told him to do better.
Do better than Rambo? Wow.
Yeah. I said Aragorn.
Ooh, okay.
That's better. You can't tell me that's not better.
No. You throw any Lord of the Rings characters at me, and I will say that's better than anything else. Okay. Yeah, he's got the hair for it, actually. He could definitely pull off an Aragorn.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah. And he's got swords galore.
He literally has Aragorn's sword. I bought it for him.
Oh, does he have the Aragorn sword?
Yeah, we have a replica.
No way.
It's like as tall as me. It's huge.
Nice. Okay. I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm.
He should actually do that, though.
Right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk. Okay. So after that first murder, Niels killed another 35 patients at least that was in the Oldenburg Hospital. That was before he transferred positions to the Delmenhorst. Oh my God. I'm so sorry for butchering these names. It's Delmenhorst, but I'm sure there's an accent that makes it sound much cooler than what I'm making it sound like. That hospital, which is near the northwestern city of Bremen. They found evidence that he only waited 1 week at his new job before he was back at it again. He killed his first patient 1 week after he started his new job.
Damn.
It was discovered during investigation that Niels had used 5 different types of drugs, actually, not just the one. So those included was the adrenaline, sotalol, lidocaine, amiodarone. I know I'm pronouncing these wrong, I'm sorry. And calcium chloride. So overdoses on these drugs can all cause cardiac arrhythmia. And that was what he was looking for. And it also drops the patient's blood pressure, which then causes a rapid decline in the patient's health, who is already ill when they are in the hospital. Delmenhorst discovered that during Niels' time working at their clinic, the amount of deaths in the ICU department doubled from 5% to 10%.
Jeez Louise.
And no one thought to tell the authorities at the time when this was noticed.
Why?
I know.
This isn't the 80s anymore. We're in the 2000s.
Literally, I know. That's what makes it so scary. Like, this was not even, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, it's longer. Longer than I was thinking in my head. I'm like, it's still 2005 right now.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. Back at Oldenburg's clinic, the head of police there, Johann Kumi, said that these murders could have been prevented. They were investigating neglect at that location to see if anyone there knew what was going on and turned a blind eye. Johann said that those in charge could have acted faster to stop the further loss of life. Instead, Niels was given a spotless record and the gleaming recommendation letter that allowed him to continue his killing spree at another institution. Johann said that people at the clinic of Oldenburg, he said, quote, people at the clinic of Oldenburg knew of the abnormalities, end quote.
I feel like they'd especially notice after he's gone and everything goes back to normal.
Right? It definitely had to be noticed, especially after that point. Like, they might have had their suspicions while he was there, but after he left, you had to have noticed that something was off because it was back to normal. Business as usual, I guess. When Niels brought his glowing recommendation letter to Delmenhorst Hospital, they did not mention in the letter that they had, in fact, grown extremely suspicious of the amount of deaths that occurred while he was on duty, or that they had barred him from contact with patients and basically pushed him out of that location. So Oldenburg Hospital actually did they were suspicious, but they didn't tell that to the new hospital that he was going to. Which, I don't know why. He must have been so charismatic or something, because to have a personality where people are just going to turn to side eye or blind eye to the fact that you could be responsible for causing patients' deaths. Like, I can't even imagine turning a blind eye to that. That's
wild.
Yeah. So when Niels was 38 years old, this was February 2015, he finally admitted to authorities that he had administered 90 unauthorized injections. 30 of those ended up being fatal because he was not able to resuscitate the patients. He said he felt responsible for those 30, but did not admit to any more than that. He admitted in trial that he enjoyed the feeling of bringing them back to life. It made him feel like a hero in the presence of others.
That's not what that is.
Isn't that sickening?
Because you caused it.
He's the reason why they needed to have resuscitation in the first place, but he didn't tell them that.
You are, in fact, the villain,
right?
Sir. You are not the hero.
Exactly. During the trial, he said that he had just been bored and was seeking excitement in his job. He told the court, quote, "It was the clinical daily routine which failed to challenge me," end quote.
Get a hobby or something.
Right? Like, why? Why this?
A crocodile farm. Do something.
Right? And are you bored with your job? Because maybe you should just get a new job. Like, there's other jobs out there. Feel free to do anything else. Just because your dad and your grandma did nursing doesn't mean you have to do nursing. Do something
or study
that you
to become
enjoy.
Like a surgical nurse. Maybe that'll be more exciting.
Yeah, but I mean, do you really want him inside?
No, I don't, but
I just want to rephrase that question. Cutting inside of your body. Anyway, it still doesn't sound good, but you know what I mean. Judge Sebastian Burman told Niels, quote, "These people were pawns in a game for you. A game that only you could win and all the others could only lose," end quote. In June 2019, Niels, who is now 42, and in his third trial since his arrest.
He's still in trials?
He's still in different trials because they're continuing the investigation because of the amount of people that they discovered. So he was convicted by a court. So the first conviction was only for... his first conviction was for killing those 2 patients. And that was a lifelong sentence. In 2019, he was convicted by the court in Oldenburg, Germany, for the murder of those 85 patients. Under German law, Niels cannot serve consecutive life sentences, but new convictions may prohibit him from being eligible for parole within the next several years. I guess when people are put in jail for life in Germany, they are eligible for parole in 15 years, which is wild.
Should not just be a guarantee, though, especially if they don't allow consecutive life sentences.
No, exactly. So I don't know. Anyway, so you'll see what happens next. It's pretty much case closed at this point. So Niels had been labeled as the world's most prolific serial killer. The irony of it all is that the serial killer worked in a field that works towards saving lives. The prosecutors on the case said that he was drunk on power over the patients whom he picked at random out of professional vanity and boredom. He offered his victims' families an apology during extensive testimony. Niels said, quote, "If I knew a way that would help you, then I would take it. Believe me. I am fully convinced now that I owe every relative an explanation. I am honestly sorry." End quote. In a 200-page personality assessment, psychiatrist Konstantin Karyofilis said that Niels didn't see his patients as individuals. Another report identified a severe narcissistic disorder. The clinic had a good reputation, but Niels felt overwhelmed by the job and started drinking heavily as he sank deeper into a depression, spiked with a panicky fear of his own death.
He had a fear of his own death?
Yeah. So he prayed with
every day he tried to
others.
kill people.
Mm-hmm. I guess it made him feel powerful and godlike. I don't know. A decade in the making, the investigation kept going. So also in 2019, the authorities were still unsure of the full scope of Niels' crimes. But now they suspect the total of deaths could be as high as 300.
Holy cow.
Yeah. In September 2020, the German federal court rejected an appeal to Niels' murder conviction and life sentence for killing 85 patients.
What was he appealing on the grounds of?
Exactly. I didn't see that either. He just put in an application for appeal and it was denied. It was rejected immediately.
Good.
The court noted in its verdict the particular seriousness of Högel's crimes, a finding that all but ensures he will remain incarcerated after the 15 years of a life sentence typically served in Germany is up. It has also banned him for life from working in patient care or rescue.
Good.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. He doesn't deserve to be around any people ever. In February of this year, 2022, 7 years after the last trial, when Niels was sentenced to life in prison, he was set to testify at another trial. This time for 3 doctors, 3 senior nurses, and a former clinic head accused of looking the other way when the nurse injected a deadly drug into helpless patients. 3 of them are from Delmenhorst, and 4 of them are from Oldenburg. None of these officials have been named. However, they are all senior members of staff that had supervised Niels and range in age from 60 to 77 years old.
At the time or now?
Now. They are going to be represented by 18 criminal defense lawyers. The trial should feature 8 defendants, but 1 is seriously ill and unable to stand trial. The case against him is now being separated from the others. So the District Court of Oldenburg said that as soon as the person who is now being prosecuted separately is able to stand trial again, the proceedings against him will be continued separately. The lawyers for the defendants, however, disagreed and said that none of the defendants could have realized at the time who was hiding behind the facade of the overzealous yet friendly nurse. One defense lawyer was quoted in reports as saying, "Högel deceived everyone. Even the former public prosecutor's office assumed for years that Högel had only carried out 1 murder." The prosecutor accuses the defendants of having failed to intervene in the murders carried out by the nurse for 2 reasons: concern for the clinic's good reputation and the fear of being accused of bullying and false suspicion made the crimes happen. An update from July 2022 in a German article that I had to Google Translate. It said that the courts said that there's no updates in any English article that I could find. I had to look up German only. So it said that it was unlikely that the defendants from Oldenburg will be convicted. A conviction requires knowledge of the deeds, but also the will to cover them up. It is difficult for the doctors and nursing staff to prove that. It is still unclear what will happen next for those accused. It could be that the case against the Oldenburgs would be separated while the accused from Delmenhorst would continue to be tried. I don't know what makes them different. They're different towns, so maybe they have different rules behind them. Different
jurisdictions.
Yeah. Yeah, what you said.
It's been a while. I worked a lot today, guys. Yeah. My brain's a little bit mushy.
I think we're all a little bit on a brain mushy side today. A German film called The White Silence in English. It's actually a German film, so it's Schweigen. I don't know.
Don't
I'm
even
so
try.
sorry. It explores how Niels may have gotten away with killing more than 80 patients that were proven in a hospital for 5 years. Also, a team from Radio Bremen in Germany worked on a four-part docuseries. It was called Schwarzer Schatten, which means Black Shadow, about the biggest...
White Silence, Black Shadow? They're not coordinating on their titles here.
No. Yeah, I'm not sure about the White Silence, but the Black Shadow, the director said he called it Black Shadow because he was basically like a dark shadow, just like a dark angel of death going around into rooms in the hospital.
Damn.
Yeah, it was pretty deep. I actually would love to watch this if I could watch it in English. So this was about the biggest series of murders in post-war history. This is a true crime documentary series by Kinescope Film for Sky Germany in co-production with Radio Bremen. The series is said to truly give victims and survivors a voice and explains why the case is happening and is it possible in other hospitals. So will the investigation into the series of murders ever come to an end? They asked in this article the director of this docuseries, his name is Stefan Hudeman. He gave an answer to the question and said, the number of unreported cases will be huge. However, from the perspective of the victims, the situation is such that the court has now judged the crimes. Now it's about those responsible. There is currently still a trial in Oldenburg against former superiors of Niels Högel. We don't know what that will lead to. Högel has already testified there, but that didn't bring any new insights. And it's not surprising either, because his statements were dubious before, too. No one knows the whole truth, not even the killer himself.
Dang.
And that is it.
That's wild. That's
Isn't that
terrifying.
wild?
'Cause when you go to a hospital, you think you're getting the opposite of dying.
You literally never expect anyone in the hospital to have any malicious intent or thought about harming you in a hospital. Like, it's never even crossed my mind. I read the story and I was like, wow, it was so easy for him to just go in, inject them with something that is not healthy, beneficial to them, to their hearts, and walk away and then come back and try to resuscitate. And then it just looks like a normal cardiac arrest. And if he can revive them, great. And if he can't, that was it. So, and they were all ICU patients. So it was very much not really on the radar at first, because it was unfortunately common for cardiac arrests to happen in ICUs. Not as common as it became, because obviously
10% of patients.
when it doubled from 5% to 10%, that's a little bit crazy. But yeah, they did go through. There's a bunch of other statistics and stuff that they went through, and the numbers just went through the roof. And the fact that any of these hospitals never reported it to authorities when they could have, when they were reviewing the reports, it just speaks volumes for the hospitals and what they did. Like, I really hope that they put practices in place that protect the patients and that the patients actually feel comfortable going there. Like, I can't imagine going to that hospital, either of those two hospitals, after this and learning about
Goodness,
this.
no.
And what the hospital kind of did to cover it up, really.
I hope they hired a good PR team.
Yeah. The hospitals?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the court system kind of works its magic and gets justice for those victims of the families who lost their loved ones because of this guy.
I mean, they're going to get closure, but they're not going to get anything in return unless they can somehow sue the hospital. Because that would be a different case.
Yeah. Yeah, there could be. I don't know. Like, I don't know if if this case, I feel like if this case for those defendants from the two hospitals goes through and if they get charged and are found guilty, I feel like then the families will have a right to sue those hospitals.
It would be a lot harder to sue the hospitals because they would have to prove that the hospitals the hospital itself knew and not individual people. And
These
so
were-
you'd have to prove negligence from the hospital itself.
These were his direct supervisors. So
Yeah.
they could technically use the court case if the court case goes through and they are found guilty of neglect, then that court case could be used as evidence in a legal suing battle. I don't know how court systems work in Germany.
I think if they did the individual people, if they were suing for money, like damages, I don't think they could then sue the hospital too, because you'd basically be suing the same thing, kind of.
I don't know, because they're talking about now separating the trials between the two different hospitals. So it actually kind of sounds like, yeah, they're suing those individual people because they were supervisors, but it kind of sounds like they're also blaming and putting blame on the hospital for neglect. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I read nothing, so I don't know.
It literally was translated from German, so I don't know. I don't know if that's completely accurate or not, but that's what I read, and that's what it sounds like is happening, so I'm not sure. But it's still ongoing, which is wild, because this all happened 2000 to 2005, and they are still looking into the evidence and still trying to figure out how to get through these trials. And they did I believe it was in March, that Niels testified in the trial against those hospital workers. But there's been no updates since then, so I couldn't find any updates about what happened to that, if there's any kind of outcome from that, or if they're still waiting for an outcome. I don't know. We're in September now, so could be, but it's been 6 months, so not really sure why it would take so long, but who knows. Anyway, it's a pretty crazy story. I was surprised how little there was available here. Like, there's little random snippets of news stories here and there about it, but nothing to the degree that I was expecting for a story like this to hit the news. Like, yeah.
Must just be popular in Germany, or not popular is not the right word.
No.
Well known.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, considering he's considered the worst serial killer post-war in Germany, which is, I can't even imagine having that title. Not good. Not good. Almost 300 or over 300 suspected murders now. Just crazy. Anyway, on to a lighter note. It is your turn to roll.
Ooh. Dun, 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 dun. What is that? Oh man, the number's coming off of my die. I got a 5. I got folie à deux. It's very Joker, Harley Quinn vibes.
Yes. Sure, that'll be a good story.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
A very specific story. I remember when we talked about that and said we were going to put that on the list.
Yeah. And then I did.
Yeah, you did. And now we got it.
Made it happen, Cap'n.
Full circle.
Great, grand, fantastic. Thank you for joining us for another fabulous episode. If you would like to find us on social media and look at the pictures for this case that I'm sure Megan has ready to go, you can search the Grimdark Diaries and you will find us. If you would like to contact us and tell us a story, you can do that. You would just email thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. And if you have Apple Podcasts, you can like us and rate us and give us 5 stars and put a comment. And that helps us out a lot.
I heard somebody else. There was another podcast that I was listening to recently, and they were like, and if you want to go on your Apple Podcast, you can write comments. Please tell us a dad joke. It's like, that's a great idea. I want to hear more dad jokes. We will laugh at all your dad jokes and we'll tell them on air if you go write dad jokes in our comments section in the Apple Podcast.
Yeah, my husband tells me dad jokes every day. I like them.
I love dad jokes. They're so good.
There's a board game that's some kind of dad joke game.
Is there actually?
Yeah, because our good friend Tyler and my husband, they are good at dad jokes with each other, and I thought about buying it for them once.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so good. Oh man, dad jokes they're so bad they're good. I feel like, I don't know. I laugh a lot, obviously. If you know me, you know me. If you know, you know. I'm a laugher, and those always get me every time.
Yeah. Well, like us and rate us and send us your dad jokes. And tune in next week to see what I come up with for Folie à Deux. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.